Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Trump Trolls Trump. You know the drill. I mock the idiot. Anyway, it has now been 278 days since Inauguration Day, my word, and we're taking a look back at week 39, and what a week it has been. It's already 24 days since the shutdown began. Let me rephrase. It's already been 24 days since the Republican shutdown began. And in spite of it, it's only taken a few days to tear down the East Wing of the White House. Well done, everybody. Truly. In the world of Donald and his enablers, as we know, left is right is up is down is up. I think we've covered it. The truth becomes the lie, and the lie is the truth. That's the only truth, right? This Orwellian mirror we're all looking into and forced to look into every day portrays ignorance as strength, corruption as virtue, freedom as tyranny, and loyalty to the lie is truly the only law that remains, assuming that the lie is Donald. This week, we're going to talk about politics through the looking glass in Donald's America. And as much as it hurts me to say this, America has been, or at least is in the process of a remodel akin to the remodel of the East Wing, which is to say, it's being reduced to rubble in Donald Trump's own image. Since the Trump regime came to power back on January 20th, it has repeatedly tried to silence the media, stifle the free press, and generally repress free speech for all of us, or at least any speech that is critical of Donald, because he's a thin skinned baby. From defunding NPR, barring the Associated Press and other media outlets from the White House press pool access, Pentagon media loyalty oaths, the suspension of comedian Jimmy Kimmel, the list goes on and on and on. This is not going away anytime soon. But according to House Speaker Mike Johnson, we've got it all wrong. It's Donald and the Republicans who are strengthening our First Amendment rights, and we should be thanking them for it. This week, Johnson was asked for his thoughts on the No Kings protests, and this was his response.
They are decrying the country that allows them to engage in this activity. And the last time I checked, Americans have more freedom right now to express themselves and speak their minds after Republicans took over and ended the years of having millions of Americans' voices systematically silenced during the COVID pandemic years and the left's cancel culture. It is the Republicans that restored your right to share and speak your mind.
See, that smug, sanctimonious little shit couldn't help but laughing at the end because he knows he's lying through his teeth. Donald, Elon Musk, people like Mike Johnson, they have as their mission to chill the freedom of speech in America, to chill the right to assemble and protest peacefully, and they know it. But guess what? We don't listen to people like that. The Trump regime is also engaged in attacks on one of the fundamental concepts of America, equality for all. Nope, that is out the window. Consider just this week the commutation of convicted felon George Santos. Santos actually pled guilty to wire fraud and aggravated identity theft, for which he was sentenced to 7 years in prison. All he had to do to get out of that, though, was say nice things about Donald. Those who criticize Donald, on the other hand, face the full wrath of the Department of Justice. There are a few people we can ask about this, like former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. Maybe former CIA Director John Brennan would like a word, or even Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. And then, of course, there's Senator Adam Schiff and a whole host of others, no doubt, waiting in the wings. Equal treatment under the law, I'm not entirely sure that was ever truly a thing anyway. And thanks to the corrupt, illegitimate supermajority of the Supreme Court, Donald Trump himself has been placed squarely above the law. But now, anybody in his orbit seems to be above the law as well. Because, again, it's his America now. At a press briefing this week in Bradenton, Florida, billed as an ICE update, cosplayer and puppy murderer, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem told us something that is demonstrably false. No way. I wish somebody had prepared me. Noam was asked about her thoughts on working families who are afraid to leave their homes without documentation for fear of being illegally abducted by the government's immigration officers. This is what Noam had to say.
You're saying that working families are afraid to go out? I think they should be in this country legally. They have no fear whatsoever if they're in this country abiding by our laws. And that is the wonderful thing about America. Everybody is treated equally, and we don't pick and choose who the law applies to and who it doesn't.
I wish you would stick to cosplaying. They are here legally most of the time. Many of them are American citizens, and she knows that. It's just the fact that they're brown that gets in the way. She forgot to mention that part. That woman is terrifying. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think she's also a pathetic, unqualified loser. But she will stop at nothing to fulfill the Trump regime's goal of turning this country into a white apartheid state. So we have to take her seriously, unfortunately. I want to get back to the media for a second, though. Fox State Television, really, we should just call it Doublespeak Theater from now on, because they actually had a host come on to talk about media bias and how it has hurt the Democrats while making Donald the strongest leader imaginable.
You look at the KJPs, you look at the Joe Bidens, you look at the Kamala Harrises, they're all abject, pathetic figures. They're failures, and they had the media on their side. They failed. What does that tell you? An allied, slobbering media does you no favors. It leaves you as an incompetent, arrogant, entitled fool. It's like parents who spoil a child so much that that child has no ambition, doesn't have to do anything, sits on the couch. That's the Democrat Party right now. Sitting on the couch, they don't know how to get up. Meanwhile, Trump, he's like the kid that the parents said, no, you got to work your way through school. When you're 18, you got to get out of the house. So he gets out, he does, and so he has no favors. He's not expecting them, and he goes and he gets it on his own. And what happens? You have one of the greatest presidents you're ever going to see in your lifetime.
Sorry, but what? Literally, he's talking about Donald there. I mean, the stuff about the spoiled kid who was never told no, who is lazy and has never earned anything and is a pathetic loser over whom the media slobbers, so he accomplishes nothing. These people are so brazenly hypocritical is not strong enough of a word, but they are so without shame. They are so plugged into this idea of making sure that they are real America, that they have the power to change the way Americans think about things, that they will stop at nothing, even something so abjectly ludicrous as claiming that Donald is a hardworking, strong leader, when we know that if it weren't for all of the handouts, all of the free publicity, all of the overlooking of the criminality, and on and on and on, he would be sitting in his mother's basement, sending out mean tweets to nobody. Anyway, that was fun. While we're on the subject of state television, White House spokesperson Ava Braun is one of the regime's most shameless guests. Sorry, I usually catch that sooner. Karoline Leavitt. I should probably stop calling her Ava Braun because she'd consider it a compliment. Anyway, we know that she's a shameless gaslighter. This week, she was asked her thoughts on her predecessor, Karine Jean-Pierre, the aforementioned KJP. I guess Greg Gutfeld is on initial terms with Karine Jean-Pierre. As you may have suspected, her response was a series of lies and distortions and, the same shit she always does. But of course, delivered in her own inimitable style. Let's watch.
Well, with all due respect to my predecessor, she is one of the main culprits of the greatest cover-up and scandal in American history. She took the podium every day and lied to the press about the incompetence of her boss. And I will just add, when you talk to the real journalists, not the ones who are actually activists that pose as journalists, but the people who actually care about truth, and there are some of those left in the White House press corps, I work with them every day, they will tell you the Trump White House is the most accessible and transparent White House ever. Not only does the president take questions from the press on a near daily basis, multiple times per day, as he did today, but we also provide truthful and accurate information about what this administration is doing and accomplishing. And it's a stark contrast to what they had over the past 4 years where they were gaslit.
God, it's unbearable. Also, I think that Jesse Waters is dead inside. But so is Karoline Leavitt. The fact that she could say any of that with a straight face just shows you she has no soul. It is quite stunning. Not shocking, not surprising, but I'm still stunned by the fact that somebody could so shamefacedly say that her predecessor lied and gaslit the American people on a daily basis when she is a past master at it. Let's end with something really fun. The entire demolition of the East Wing of the White House so Donald can build a $300 million ballroom. Like so many of his projects that either never get finished or become more and more expensive. It used to be 200 million and then it was 250 million and now it's 300 million. But luckily, there's going to be some money left over. So because Donald has his fingers on the pulse of what really matters to people in this country, and because he cares so much about the American people, especially during a government shutdown that he caused, and in the midst of an economy that's tanking because of him, he knows exactly the best way to use those excess funds. Which leads to the question, what exactly is that going to be? Well, of course, I mean, come on, guys, it should be obvious on its face. He's going to build a triumphal arch. And he's building it, well, you would think, right? In honor of this country's 250th birthday. Well, no, you'd be wrong. It's in honor of him. The little guy is even referring to it as the Arc de Trump. Oh, God. Anyway, that leads us to another question. And I think it's a really important one. Wouldn't we all be better off if this tiny man were spending more time in the Oval Office playing with his tiny toys? Yeah, we would be. All right, that does it for us. Thank you so much for joining us this week for this latest episode of Trump Trolls Trump. And because they cannot help themselves, we will be back here next week to do some more mocking. In the meantime, please like and share this video, especially with people who hate me, because that'll be fun. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Mary Trump Media channel. I'll see you next week. Bye.